Hey, what is up you guys? It's Anthony here from Tactical Solutions. Today, it's a little gusty out, so we're going to be talking about tent stakes. Stay tuned as we test a couple different tent stakes out that you're going to be able to find in stores or produce yourself. Let's see which ones battle the test of time and which ones fail dramatically. So what we got here today are 4 different common types of tent stakes that you're going to see. We're going to start out with the one that is in most of your common kits. These are going to be the thin-walled metal stakes that go into the ground. The pros of these are that they're really light, they're really cheap. The cons are that they bend easy and they don't really serve a good purpose in staking down a tent. These things, as you'll see in the tests, don't work out so well. Next you have your aluminum variety. These are going to usually have, as you can see, they're not going to be round like a nail, but they actually have more surface area, which is going to help keep the stake in the ground. Now the pros to these are they're relatively affordable. Some of them range from about $1 to $2.50 a piece. They're also lightweight as well. Cons being that these do bend in hard use conditions, and they can break as well. So that's something to look out for. Next up on the list is going to be a bigger steel spike. Now this is going to be a Coleman one. This is 10 inches. So as compared to a smaller steel spike, which is about 7 inches. It's got a larger diameter, and this piece here is going to stick further in the ground. Pros to this are, it goes deeper into the ground. You can go through harder rock surfaces. Cons are going to be that these are heavier, and they cost a little more as well at about $1.50 a piece. And then the biggest guy of them all is going to be one that you're going to have to make yourself. This is going to be a 12-inch, a foot-long steel spike that you can get at Home Depot, and then just a half-inch washer. And this kit, the pros to this is that it is massively large. This is going to go deep in the ground. It's going to penetrate rock. It's not going to bend on you. Cons being that it is one of the more expensive pieces. That this is over $1 a piece, and that it's actually very heavy and large. So let's go ahead and test all these today and see what happens. So for our test, we're going to test straight up and down 90 degrees, and we're going to see how much weight it takes to pull that stake out of the ground. We're going to be using a weight tool like this to average out the weights. And then after we test all 4, we're going to put the stakes in at a 45-degree angle, and then we'll pull them at a separate angle to see if we can get it to rip through the ground. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so we have all 4 stakes in the ground. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece of rope, I'll wrap it around each one individually, and we're going to pull straight up with our pound gauge here and see what it ends up at. And we'll be able to tell what it stops at by this little dial here. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to hold the camera with my non-dominant hand. Alright, this is the smallest stake at 90 degrees. That came up at about, it looks like 8 pounds. Okay, now the aluminum spike, we're going to come straight out. And it has topped the gauge out at 20 pounds and has not wanted to come out. So we're going to move to our stronger gauge. I'm going to set the camera aside for this one so I could read the gauge. We're at 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 40 pounds. Came up at about 38 to 40 pounds for the aluminum spike. The one we did before that was 8 pounds. Now the next one is a Coleman 10-inch spike. That came out at about 18 pounds straight up. And now the Home Depot 12-inch steel spike is coming up. That came out at about 21 pounds. So as you can see in this soft material, the original tent stakes that come with your tent, absolute garbage. These aluminum ones worked very well for the straight up and down 90-degree stake and took almost 40 pounds to pull straight out of the ground. Coleman tent 10-inch steel spike did a respectable 18 pounds, and our big steel spike did a respectable 21 to 22 pounds. But this test isn't definitive. Let's keep going and let me show you why my Home Depot spike really does the trick. So that 90-degree straight up and down test was something we just did to test retention of the tent stakes themselves. But this is in no way how you would actually stake your tent down. So let's get to the 45-degree angle stuff and see how the variables change. As you can see, all of them are put in at a 45-degree angle. Now in this scenario, I'm going to be pulling away from the stakes, simulating a tent that's trying to pull up on a windy condition type of day. So we're going to set up our line and I'm going to pull and see what kind of movement, bending, or ground tearing that we get out of these stakes. Alright guys, as you can see here, I've drawn out a tent, dirt, and two 45-degree angle stakes in the ground. And for this next test, what we're going to simulate is wind coming in from either direction of the tent, like so. What that effectively is going to do is that it's going to pull these tent stakes out. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to replicate this in the field. And how we're going to do that is we're going to use our setup here, which is what we're doing now in the video, and we're going to pull out at this angle, because this stake is the same as this stake when you look at it. And if this tent is being blown from the left side with wind, this stake's going to kind of pull up and out. And this is what we're trying to simulate, is that up and out movement. So we're going to do this right now in the field. We're going to go ahead and use our larger pound test equipment. We're going to start with our original tent stake first that comes in most of your kits. I'm going to pull at this angle here, simulating the wind pulling the tent up from the 45-degree angle. And it looks like at about 10 pounds, the stake will loosen. It looks like we're at about 13 pounds to 14 pounds right there. And that stake is done. And now your tent would be flopping in the wind in that corner. So 14 pounds on that. Okay, we got it hooked up on the aluminum stake. And let's see what kind of numbers we could pull. So we've surpassed 14 right there and it hasn't budged. We're at about 18 right here. The stake is coming up. And at 20, pulled it out of the ground. All right, we got it around the Coleman 10-inch stake. Let's see what it pulls. We're at about 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, and at 26, it pulls straight up. Okay, we now have the Home Depot stake here. Let's see what it pulls. I'm around 26, 30, 40. I'm at 50 right now, and I can't pull it any further. I'm gonna max out my machine. I'm at 55, 60, and that stake isn't moving. Let's go ahead and put my full body weight into it and see if we can get it to break. I'm leaning with my full body weight against it, and I can get it out. I weigh 175 pounds. So let's debrief on this and figure out what happened. I've learned something very interesting here. In the soft, sandy gravel that you're gonna find in some camping locations, with a 90-degree stake, we found that these aluminum poles, these aluminum stakes held up the best, and that's because of their surface area. The surface area increased, which put an increased hold on that object. Now, when we did the 45-degree angle, with this tent stake in the ground like this, we are simulating the wind pushing and pulling on the tent and kind of getting it out of that angle area. And the reason that our Home Depot stake did so much better than everything else is because of its pure size. We have 12 inches penetrating into the ground versus about 8 for your normal aluminum stake. And this piece does not bend at all. The aluminum likes to bend a little bit and gives it some wiggle room. What we're gonna do lastly is we'll probably go to a harder surface area and maybe punch these in the ground and see if any of them can bend. Well guys, now we're here at this park. We're gonna go ahead and do the same 45-degree angle test in the grass with some hard packed dirt on a soccer field, because I know a lot of you guys camp out at parks. So let's go ahead and do the same 45-degree angle test we did in the thin, kind of sandy area, and we're gonna test it in the grass, see if we get the same results. All right, first test will be the standard stake. We'll do a 45-degree angle, somewhere like this. 20 pounds. Looks like we're at about 26, 28. At 28 pounds, and let's go. All right, here goes the aluminum spike. We got 30 pounds, 40 pounds, 50 pounds there, 60 pounds, and it's come out of the ground there at 60 pounds. One thing I want to note with the aluminum spike is that it did bend. Okay, we got the Coleman 10-inch steel spike stake. We're gonna pull that out of the ground. 20 pounds there, 30 pounds, 40. I'm at 50 pounds and it seems like it's not budging much. We'll do 60 pounds, 70 pounds maybe. See there, I would assume that was around 60 to 80 pounds. All right, this is the Home Depot stake. 45-degree angle. I'm gonna pull it out slowly. All right, we've already maxed it out. It hasn't budged an inch. I'm gonna go ahead and put all my body weight into it. I've made a two-handed handle and I'm gonna lean back here. And as you can see, that is my full body weight leaned into that stake and I can't get it to move. Maybe if I pull with it, I can get it to come out, but I'm not sure. I'm pulling with my legs and I can finally get it to pull there. I don't know. I'm 170 pounds, so that probably took at least 200 pounds of force to pull that stake out. Let's just recap here that these tent stakes are garbage. Just go ahead and toss those out. Maybe keep them just in case as a safety if someone else's tent stakes go missing. In third place comes these Coleman steel spikes. I like them, but they come out somewhat easy in soft sand because they're thin, but they are reliable, so these are good to have, definitely. These come in number 2 just because of their surface area, and for low to moderate wind conditions, these things rock, but in any condition other than backpacking, you have to go with the 12-inch spike from Home Depot that you make yourself. These things are incredible. And as I'll show you on the removal, they're actually pretty easy to remove as well. So just to recap, use these if you're going backpacking in low to moderate wind conditions. These are going to hold up great in soft sand and dirt. Use these Coleman stakes if you're going to be in higher wind conditions and can't make it to Home Depot to make your own stakes. And use these if you are going to be camping in extreme conditions or you just want the safety of knowing that you have the best stake around. And lastly, we're gonna go ahead and show you ease of removal of these stakes out of the ground, since we know this is the clear winner of durability. Now, as far as removing all 4 of these stakes, they're all somewhat similar. You know, the aluminum one has a nice handle, the Coleman one has a nice handle, the original crappy tent stakes, if you can get your finger under, you can use them, and my Home Depot tent stakes, you can use the washer to pull it out. But what I suggest is, you know, you take your hammer and you put a little, you know, you drill and you screw in a little hook in the bottom, and this way you have a camping hammer to pull these stakes out. So you just come in at a 45. These are very easy to pull out because they don't do anything, and that's why you shouldn't use them. The aluminum ones, they have a nice rope usually, and they take a little more effort to pull out, but still relatively easy. The Colemans have a little hook that you can go into, and these are a little harder to pull out. You got to give them a little tug sometimes. And then my tent stake, usually what you have to do is you just give it a little tap on each side, once or twice to kind of loosen it up, and then you could pull it out of the ground like such. Or if you're having issues, you could try and use the hook as well, as we'll demonstrate here. What you can do is you can get the hook underneath the washer and pull it out that way too. So out of all 4, they're all pretty similar to remove. My stake is a little harder to remove, which is a good thing. You want it to be harder to remove because that means it won't be coming out in the middle of the night when you're camping. Well guys, I hope you're all staked out, because I know I am. This has been another video from Anthony here at Tactical Solutions. Like, share, and subscribe, and visit our sister channel, DIY Auto Tech, for all your automotive diagnostic repair needs and videos. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.